All right, so hello again. Um, I'm trying to first of all, let me just say, my attempt to create videos in advance is definitely teaching me about Blast in a very humbling way. I mean, it's difficult. I'm finding it difficult to come up with topics every single time and find things to hopefully say. So I guess first and foremost, let me respect everyone who saved your blast, man. You guys are really cool for doing this all day. Now, with that being said, I do want to make a video. I'm basically going to leverage this really great interview. So Lindsay did a really great thing in getting Shan to talk about the darkness of each cognitive function. And so I'm just going to leverage the fuck out of that. I'm going to make two videos. I'm going to make 4 videos rather. Sorry. Each one is going to be about my stack, just so I can do a little bit of reflecting and hopefully learn from it. I'm going to start with my saviors, of course, and then I'm going to end up with my demons. So I'm going to start with any, and there's going to be a video about TE, then FI, and then SI, if that makes sense. So let me first do this. I'm going to put this at 1.25 because I love you guys, but you guys are really slow. We're going to start with any, all right? And thankfully, this cute guy over here, put some bookmarks. So let's start with any, see what they have to say, and then hopefully I can comment with my own experience or maybe some clarification.
First, we're going to start off with extroverted intuition. So Shan, with the people that you've spoken with and who you know with extroverted intuition, what does it look like in that transitional phase of life when someone's been going all in on their savior, their any, and then where are they really getting hit at the end of the day?
Right. So obviously every person is going to be a combination of parts. A lot of times, like, they get hit most by their last animal. But if we narrow in and specifically talk about just like if you're a lead any, what I see, the desire, the all in, the glory, the feel good, like you just and pausing for 2 seconds, you can't see your first function a lot of time. Like that seems to be pretty. Most people cannot really see that first function because it's just so all encompassing. But with lead any, it's the endless possibilities, the higher self-actualization. That's if you have DI. The multitude of possibilities, the multiverse, the different, like the amount your brain wants to spend on. There is a possibility of living that is more interesting than the one I'm living. Yeah.
All right, so let's start with that. Start with that. Sorry. Really great commentary. So it's funny. I definitely agree with Shan that I probably don't. So let me take a step back. Wow. So I'm officially typed as audio NETE play consume blast sleep blast in the system. Okay. Basically what that means is that NE is my drug of choice, my primary drug of choice, right? I'm addicted to NE and is double activated at the top because of the play and the consume. So NE is going to be one of the biggest, let's say, hidden addictions of mine. Now, I definitely agree with Shan that I probably don't fully see the full extent of my NE. I probably never have. But her description of what NE is addicted to is something that I never associated with NE until she said that. But once she said that, I definitely can see it throughout my life. I mean, like, I was the guy at a very early age who was like trying to like find enlightenment. I went through so many phases, right? In college and, even when I was young, right? I went through, and it was always abstract, right? It would usually come from fiction or it would come from some guru, right? So, starting at an early age, I know definitely I was addicted to Naruto and every self-actualization related thing that Naruto had, right? So, for example, I don't know, this might be spoilers, but, in Naruto, there's this concept of, harnessing your rage or harnessing this monster within you. And, like, I'd be like, oh, man, I really want to do that. That'd be cool. In Naruto, there was also this thing called sage mode where he found power through meditation and through stillness, right? And I was like, oh, my God, that's really cool. And even at a really early age, there was always this notion, and for me, that yes, these things are fictional and abstract, but there must be a version of that in the real world, right? And so I was very much the stereotype NE kid where anything was possible for me, right? If I saw something in fiction, my first assumption was always that it's possible in the real world somehow, and it's my responsibility to find out how that works, right? And so that probably gives away both of my saviors, right? So that probably gives away the NE and the TE, because I was very concerned with figuring out how it worked in the real world. And I wasn't always as concerned with applying it myself, right? Which is probably more of the self-actualization that she attributed to DI. But, Naruto Sage Mode, I was very big into Bleach, One Piece, and I was trying to it was to the point, people would make fun of me when I was really young, because I would play an anime character like in the front yard while they're all playing football or whatever. And I'm like kicking trees and I'm climbing trees and practicing ninja hand signs and all this shit, right? And to the outside world, I'm sure I looked kind of I'm sure I looked kind of crazy, and to be honest, I probably still look kind of crazy to people these days because I am so fixated on the abstract and what it can get me, right? And fast forward to today, I mean, I could definitely argue that I'm still doing that, maybe to a much more subdued degree, right? Maybe it's not as intense as me kicking, trees and climbing and doing ninja hand signs. But I would even argue that, there are certain concepts that I'm still addicted to, right? So I would even argue that, Atomic Habits, the tiny wins. I mean, it is changing my life in a positive way because of the discipline. But I definitely would say that that's still a manifestation of my any addiction, kind of pulling me in a direction of, oh, wow, look at this abstract thing that no one else is doing. Let me do that. And so that was something that was really, really important for me. I don't know if any of you guys who are watching who have Savior Any relate. I'm definitely leave it in the comments, but I'm just going to keep going here. I'm really just going to try and use this and just connect it with my life. I'm not going to really make comments beyond that because I don't think I'm ready to do that just yet. But let me just keep going, and then I'll just, kind of confirm or question maybe some of their hypotheses. But so far, they're she's killing it.
And that's that becomes a very lonely, empty. If you're constantly pinging and you're constantly going outward and going, but it could be, but it might be, but it this constant what if to insanity. Your own personal actual life in reality is lost. You would lose. And what's so weird is that the desire is to have the most epic reality, right? In that any possibilities. And you end up having the worst kind of reality in actual reality. It feels like...
Okay, so stopping here. This is also definitely true, in my experience. This notion of, and I got a lot of feedback about this when I was young, right? It's like I was so busy chasing these abstract things that I wouldn't spend time with friends. I wouldn't spend time with family. I would be rude to people who weren't doing what I was doing, right? And I wasn't really doing practical things, right? So I'll start off when I was young and then I'll talk about what I'm doing now that's similar. When I was young, I mean, I pretty much lived in this, I don't want to call it a fantasy world exactly, because I actually don't, I did fantasize a lot, but I would just call it more of an abstract world. It wasn't necessarily fantasy because for me, and again, maybe this is because of the TE, but I was always aware of this is fictional. I never was under the impression that Naruto existed or that literally Sage Mode existed somewhere. But it was more along the lines of there's this feeling of I'm responsible for figuring out what the real world version of these fictional things are. And, and that was really the only responsibility, figuring out what the real world version was. And what ended up happening is I wouldn't do homework. I was too bored with homework. I wouldn't be disciplined enough to play piano, even though I had a natural affinity for it. So I wasted my talent in many ways, because of my lack of discipline and my lack of interest in just sitting down at a keyboard and doing whatever, right? I didn't really do well in terms of even when I was young. I mean, I did have a little bit of money, pocket money or whatever, but I would always spend it really quickly. I never really was good with money. I would just spend it really fast and just not care. And then some of the more EP things, just very sloppy, just very lazy, to be honest, in a certain way. And, fast forward to the present, I think my professional career, really is a testament to just how addicted I was to NE, because for every job, I pretty much picked every job in my career for abstract ass reasons, right? The first job I had was, oh man, I was watching this show Suits on what was it? Not HBO, on USA, right? And I was like, oh man, this first job of mine, I'm gonna be this main character, and it was so no understanding of actual salary. I didn't really know what it took to pay for my own place. I was not thinking of any of that. I was purely in this abstract realm of I need to figure out how to become this main character, right? And then fast forward to today, I mean, the job that I have now, I'm definitely grateful for it. I mean, this is by far the best job I've had. But even with this one, I was in this trance of, this sales job, I'm going to use it for practice so I can develop my skills so that I can do mergers and acquisitions and all this stuff. And like, look, I mean, that's a legitimate career path. But for me, it was so abstract and so fantastical, let's say, that all of the real world stuff fell apart. And then I would end up being miserable at each job that I was at, right? So definitely what Shan is mentioning right now is something that I've experienced, and it sucks. I mean, like what I've been trying to force myself to do is, these days, is to take the abstract things that I know are true, because I do think there are some abstract truths, right? For example, tiny wins, incremental improvements that compound over time. I think those abstract truths are real. But what I've been trying to do these days is, instead of just being enamored by the abstract by itself, it's like my new responsibility, let's say, is to make those, like, I need to live in a way where those abstract things come to life through my own life, right? I need to be the representation of this abstract thing on earth, which requires me to do the actual hard things that I usually avoid, right? So anyway, that's my commentary. I think they might say one or two more things about SI, and then I'm just going to stop this video and then go on to the next one. So let me just see what else she has to say.
If your head is in space all the time, this is all the time, because everybody who has demon intuition is like, I know what you're talking about. It's like, yes, we're talking about all day, all day in space. Mm-hmm. If you're there all the time, coming back down to the physical ground becomes shocking, where you're like, I don't want to look at that. I don't want to have to do paperwork. I don't want to have to pay my bills. I don't want to have to, sign up for healthcare. Like the very very microscopic physical universe of SI. It just becomes mind-numbingly boring. And it's the ones that have won have been like, I was Dallas that said this, who's NEFI. It was just like the perfectly worded. I was like, that's exactly how I've wanted to word it. And he said, I've had to like kill off the different realities to choose this particular reality that I actually want to live in. And it's like, well, there you go. Because now you're going to create your reality. Now you're going to live in the best existence that you possibly could have, because you dropped all the what ifs, you dropped all the possibilities, and you got focused, and you're like, this is my path.
Okay. So, and then she ends that, but I paused it in a really awkward spot. Fuck. This is probably the one area where I might be a little bit, let's say, picky and adjust the wording here. What I would say is, it's not a matter of, I mean, yes, you're killing off a lot of possibilities. Yeah. But like, I think at least for me, let me speak for myself. The responsibility is not to get rid of the possibilities. Actually, I still have a lot of devotion and faith in what I've gathered, let's say, but it's more along the lines of, it's not even a matter of picking a path. It's more along the lines of, my job on earth now is to make these abstract things real. That's the best way I can describe it, right? So I'll take, for example, again, Atomic Habits. I was obsessed with it for a long time. I dropped it. I went back to it. I dropped it. But now I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, Reggie, so quite literally, this is what I'm doing for the next year. For the next year, I've said, okay, if James Clear is right about, tiny improvements being invisible to most people until it hits a breaking point, but then if he's right about it compounding over time, if he's right about these breakthrough moments where all of a sudden you're an overnight success and you're 37 times better at the end of the year than you were at the beginning of the year. If all that is true, then my job is to create as many tiny habits as I'm willing to make, and just forget about my results for the rest of the year and just measure my results at the end of the year. And that's what I'm doing, right? I've basically disappeared from a bunch of people. I've given up friendships temporarily because I'm like, look, I gotta build these habits. I gotta build these routines. And I need to see, it's almost it's like an experiment, almost like a test, like a scientific test. I need to see if I really will be 37 times better by the end of the year or not, right? And that's been my mission now. But that's not me giving up the NE. It's more like the NE has done its job and now it can rest. And now the SI in me needs to pick up the burden of proving that truth, let's say, in the real world. And not even just proving it, giving me a cool ass life, right? Because if I'm trying to, I also want things. Like, I also want to make money. I also want to have a good life. I also want to influence the world. So there's a lot of things that I want, but the NE, and sorry, let me rephrase that. The NE did its job. I don't think it's right to say kill it or anything like that. The NE for me did its job. It gathered the right concepts. I know what's going to work. And now it's my job to make it real, right? And so that's about it. This goes on for a little bit longer, but I think this is the basic summary. And then I think also, you know, this is kind of probably the most I can give in terms of commentary for at least any. Now, again, this is my own perspective. I'm trying to share my own experience as a commentary. I'm not trying to speak for all NEs or anything like that. So if you have any comments, or if you resonate, or if you don't, like, just feel free to leave a comment. Let me know what your experience was, or maybe even make your own video about, you know, commenting about what resonated with you in this video or not. I'd love to see that. So other than that, hope you're doing well. I'm gonna make a few more videos like this. So be on the lookout for the remaining 3. And, you know, other than that, I hope you guys are doing really well, and I hope you have a great week. I'll see you guys in a little bit. Take care.